Hi friends, so I'm going to be walking you through some wrist mobility and some strengthening drills. So with yoga, you are on your hands a lot. You do downward dog and planks and all kinds of stuff. And so there's a lot of times where you just feel like you have wrist pain or you feel like your wrists are just not strong enough. So I'm going to show you some ways that I have built some wrist strength and some stretches that I do to kind of help with my wrist health. I've had carpal tunnel in this wrist since college, like early college days from all of my typing and everything. So I had to be really careful with how much weight I bear on my wrist, and I've had to learn a lot of tips and tricks. So one thing I'm going to show you is go ahead and put your forearms together, and then you're going to just bring your palms away from each other. So some people are going to be right here in this Y shape, and other people can go into this T shape. What you want to make sure is that you don't go too far where your forearms are going to start peeling apart from one another. So whether you're here or here is totally fine. So if you're in this Y shape, it means that you're going to need a little bit more wrist mobility and more, you're going to need to work on some more flexibility in your wrist. If you are more here in this kind of T shape, that means that you have a bit more flexibility in your wrists, and you're going to need to work a bit more on the strengthening of your wrists. So whether you're here or here, it doesn't matter, but you can do all sorts of things to strengthen and to stretch out your wrists. It's important to warm up your wrists before any kind of practice, any kind of handstands or anything like that. So one thing I like to do, you can just come to a comfortable seat. I do wrist flicks. So go ahead and make a fist with your hands, and then you're just gonna flick your fingers like you're flicking water on someone. And you can do this for 20 seconds, you can do it for 30 seconds. You're gonna start feeling it in your forearms. So I like to do wrist flicks, holding my arms here, going out to the side, up, forward, just all sorts of flicks, okay? And that will warm up your wrists. So that's one way that you can warm up your wrists and you can start feeling the fire in it. Another thing you can do is pretend like you're gonna do like little hand puppets and just pinch your fingers together and open and close. And bring it above your head, making sure that you're sitting nice and tall, and just open and close your fingers. And you can do it out to the side, you can do it in front of you, and again, you can do this for 20 seconds or 30 seconds. Feel free to pause, do it as much as you want, just kind of warming up your wrists. So my wrists are now starting to feel pretty warm. I also like to bring my palms together, interlace my fingers, and just do some twisting motions back and forth, either holding it right here in front of me or kind of out, just giving a little bit of mobility. You hear that cracking? That's my carpal tunnel wrist doing all that cracking. So just moving around, they're warm. So doing some of these palm twists. So for some strengthening, you're gonna come to kind of a tabletop position. So one thing, when you're doing downward facing dog or planks or any of those, a lot of times you feel like you need to just kind of push into the palm of your hand, but then that dumps into your wrist, and that can cause a lot of wrist pain. So when you are in a downward facing dog or anything where you're on your hands, you wanna make sure that this part right here is bearing the weight, and then you are kind of, a lot of times I'll say claw your mat. That helps engage your hand the way that you should be gripping your mat. So this part right here, this fatty part between the thumb and the forefinger should never leave your mat. That part is like glued to the mat, and there's no gap there. So you'll put your palms on the mat and kind of do like you're twisting a jar. So you just twist your elbows in, and the eye of your elbows are pointed forward, and you're clawing your mat. So your forefingers, your pointers, are pointed forward. So you're clawing your mat here like this, and you can just hang out here for a second, and then start doing some gentle rocks back and forth. And this will stretch your wrists a bit. So I do strength drills every morning, and this is kind of how I start every morning. I go into tabletop, and then I'll turn my palms so that my fingertips are now pointed out to the side. I'm still gripping my mat so that one fleshy part of my hand is still glued to the mat. And I'm just gently rocking back and forth. And then I'll twist my palms so that my fingertips are now pointed towards my knees and rock back and forth. And with this one, sometimes it can feel really intense, so only go as far as feels comfortable. The more you do this, the warmer your wrists are, the more flexibility you'll gain. So then you can just gently peel back and let your palms come up off of the mat. And then go back. And then do that again. Let your palms reach up. So fingertips are still on the mat, but palms are reaching out. Oh, that feels so good. Okay. And then you can shake it out if you need to shake it out. For another strengthening, you can come up onto your fingertips, and you're just gonna do some kind of fingertip push-ups. So it feels kind of funny. You're in this tabletop, and you're just doing push-ups on your fingertips. And this is all on the wrists. So this is some strengthening for the wrists more than creating mobility or flexibility. Okay, go ahead and shake it out. You can do some of those wrist twists again if you want to. Another one I like to do is I'll bring my palms so on one, I'm not putting much weight on my wrist here right now. Most of the weight is in my knees, but I've got my palm faced up, and I'll put my other palm on top and then just twist from my elbow, and that will give some stretching there in the forearm. And then switch and do your other one. So my palm is not moving. My wrist, there's some twisting, but it's mostly coming from my shoulder, and my elbow is just moving forward. The eye of my elbow points forward and then to the side. Okay, so those are some of my favorite ones for wrist mobility and strength.